it's Nikki here and welcome to a Bookish Friday. So today's video is going to be my February book haul. Yes, I bought some more books in February. I have a problem. I have a serious problem and it really needs to get control. I'm going on a no-buy throughout March and April for books because I am bringing in more books than I am reading per month so far this year. And that's not good because I already have enough books to read and now I've got about, well, over 20 books to show you. So let's get started. The first couple of books are actually library books and I don't mind getting these because they go back at the end of the day. So I have 3 here. So the first one is this graphic novel called Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. So it's like this. So it's basically about Lissa Dragomir is a mortal vampire. Lissa? Oh, that's what I used to call Melissa. Lissa Dragomir is a mortal vampire. She must be protected at all times from the fiercest and most dangerous vampires of all, the ones who will never die. Rose Hathaway is Lissa's best friend and her bodyguard. So obviously there's going to be some dangers that Rose is going to have to save Lissa from, and I guess there's a guy involved as well. So yeah, it's just a quick kind of graphic novel. I like to pick these up every now and again to read from the library, so yeah, I got that one. The next one is the graphic novel of Dracula by Bram Stoker. I read Dracula back in last year and absolutely loved it. So I picked up the graphic novel. That's the type of artwork inside. Just to see like what it is like in graphic novel form. So yeah, I got that one. And then the next book I got because one of my interests is historical crimes, and this book is about a very infamous duo, and that is the Krays. So this is Krays, The Final Word by James Morton, and it's basically about, I suppose, their crimes, their lives. An objective account compiled by best-selling crime author and criminal lawyer James Morton cuts through the conflicting versions of the stories and answers burning questions still being asked 50 years after their infamous conviction. So yes, it's a kind of like life story of the Krays. They were nasty, evil people, but intriguing. So yeah, I got that one from the library. And a book that was given to me by one of my members of my book club. We like to swap books that we've recently read sometimes. So if I've read something that I don't intend on keeping, I will take those books into my book club every now and again, and they'll have a look through, pick out what ones they want to read, and the rest go to the charity shop. And one of my members brought in this book, which is John Grisham's The Last Juror. I believe this is in 1970 one of Mississippi's most colourful weekly newspapers went bankrupt. To the surprise and dismay of many, ownership was assumed by a 23-year-old college dropout named Willie Traynor. The future of the paper looked grim until a young mother was brutally raped and murdered by a member of the notorious Paget family. Willie Traynor reported all the gruesome details and his newspaper began to prosper. The murderer Danny Paget was tried before a packed courtroom in Clanton, Mississippi. The trial came to a startling and dramatic end when the defendant threatened revenge against the jurors if they convicted him. Nevertheless, they found him guilty and he was sentenced to life in prison. But in Mississippi in 1970, life didn't necessarily mean life, and 9 years later, Danny Padgett managed to get himself paroled. He returned to Ford County and the retribution began. So it's going to be a thriller that's going to be very exciting. So looking forward to reading that one. And so on to the books that I've bought. There's a lot. Okay, so the first one I got is another classic. This is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I've read a graphic novel of this story and I've watched films that have been made regarding this story. So I know of The Picture of Dorian Gray. I've just never actually physically read the actual book. This is a Scholastic's Classics edition, which is really funky. So if you don't know about the story, Dorian Gray is he's kind of a rich aristocrat, and he gets a painting made of himself and kind of sells his soul to the devil so that the picture ages and he does not. But yeah, things start to happen. Yeah, all is not as it seems. So that's that one. The next two books I bought were these Wordsworth Classics editions, and I do like to collect the Wordsworth Classics editions because then they look really pretty on my shelves. And these are both by D.H. Lawrence. So this one is Sons and Lovers, and I believe that this is a semi-autobiographical masterpiece in which he explores emotional conflicts through the protagonist, Paul Morell, and his suffocating relationships with a demanding mother and two very different lovers. So this is kind of a, I guess it's going to mirror D.H. Lawrence's life a little. And then this one is The Virgin and the Gypsy and Other Stories. These stories of myth and resurrection, of uncanny events and violent impulse were, with one exception, written and published in the latter half of the 1920s, coinciding with the composition of Lawrence's controversial masterpiece, Lady Chatterley's Lover. So, in struggling to escape from their thwarted lives and to achieve human tenderness, the characters embody and continue the major preoccupations of Lawrence's work as a whole. So yeah, it's going to be quite a ride. I've never read any D.H. Lawrence before, so this will be really interesting. Now, recently I watched on Netflix a film about Mary Shelley, and she led quite an interesting life. She was quite an interesting character, and I have been wanting to read her most famous works for quite some time, and that is Frankenstein. So this is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Again, it's another Wordsworth classic, so it's going to look great on my shelf with the rest of them. And this is obviously a well-known Gothic horror about a monster created by Frankenstein. Yeah, everybody knows Frankenstein, come on. So yeah, it's only a short book. I thought it was a lot longer than this. But yeah, I've been wanting to read Frankenstein since reading Dracula, actually, because I thought I really like that Gothic horror kind of atmosphere. So I'm hoping that this is going to give me some more of that. And as I say, since watching the film about Mary Shelley on Netflix, I've become really interested in her as a person, and so I wanted to find a book about her life story, and I came across this one. This is Romantic Outlaws, The Extraordinary Lives of Mary Wollstonecraft and Mary Shelley, because Mary Wollstonecraft is actually Mary Shelley's mother, and Mary Wollstonecraft was quite an amazing character all on her own. So I can't remember which one's which. I think that's Wollstonecraft and that's Mary Shelley. Mary Wollstonecraft was quite a feminist in her time. She wrote A Vindication of the Rights of Woman, So she was quite a massive feminist in her time, and Mary Shelley obviously was quite a feminist also. Uh, and I don't know if you know, but Mary Wollstonecraft died just a week after Mary Shelley was born. So it's going to be really interesting to discover their lives and learn a bit more about these famous and historical people that, you know, had a big impact on women in their time period. So yeah, I'm very excited to read that one. She's a chunker, but I'm very excited to read it. Okay, moving on to some non-fiction. I managed to pick up another one of these Penguin Monarchs little books, and I picked this one up on Edward VI, who is the only living son of King Henry VIII. It's only a very short book because, God bless him, he died at the age of 15 after only being king for 6 years. He's called the Peter Pan of English monarchy, apparently. That was his nickname. So yeah, I really like these little books, and I've got 3 of them now, so can't wait to get indulged in one of these and start learning about our English monarchs, which is another interest of mine. The next 2 books are kind of like a throwback to my childhood because I remember my mum having a whole collection of these, like a whole shelf of them, and they are the World's Greatest series. So I have Mysteries and Spies and Spy Masters. So these are 2 like non-fiction books about different crimes and cases we know and love or have heard about in past. I just love these as little, like, I used to sit and read these on an evening. I used to nip downstairs and grab one and then nip back upstairs and read it and then sneak back down and put it back on the shelf before my mum noticed it was missing. Um, I think maybe these might actually be where my love for history actually began and my love for historical crimes actually began, because I remember reading these types of books. I think we had one for like the world's greatest serial killers or something, and I remember reading about, you know, Hindley and Brady and the Yorkshire Ripper, who you can see up here, and Jack the Ripper and characters like that, and just thinking, oh my God, this is so interesting, and my intrigue was piqued. So yeah, these are kind of a throwback to my childhood, where my love for historical crimes first began. Talking of historical crimes, you may have seen this recently in my March TBR. I bought The Five, The Untold Lives of the Women Killed by Jack the Ripper by Hallie Rubenhold. So yeah, I picked this one up. Luckily, I had already picked this up and was interested in reading it because, as I say, I'm interested in reading about historical crimes. And then this book was chosen for the Waterstones book club pick for the month of March. So hopefully I will get this read very, very soon, which I can't say for the rest of the books that I've bought in February. God knows when they'll get read. So, but yeah, hopefully this one will be read in March and I can give you an update on what it's all about once I've read it. We're going to move on to some middle grade books now, and the first book I want to talk about is The Girl of Ink and Stars by Kieran Millward Hargrave. I bought this because I've read a couple of Kieran Millward Hargrave books recently, The Deathless Girls and The Way Past Winter, and I really enjoyed them. She really writes beautiful stories. The only problem that I have with her writing is that the beginning and the middle are so beautiful and intricately written that by the end of the story, it's almost like she's run out of pages and she has to end the story really quickly. So I want to see, I believe this book was her debut, her first book. So I want to see if this is a trend that she has on all of her books, or if it's just the few that I've read, because there is another book that I am interested of hers. which if I'm on a book buying ban, then I might not be able to pick up. But there is another book that she's recently released called The Mercies, and I do want to pick it up, but I don't want to get burned by that rushed ending that I've felt have been in her last two books. So yeah, I picked this up. This was from a charity shop, so it was only about £1, so I thought I'll pick this one up and see if this one is similar to her others. The next book is a sequel to a book I already own, and this is A Sprinkle of Sorcery by Michelle Harrison. The first book in the series was called A Pinch of Magic, and I will be reading A Pinch of Magic throughout March. Hopefully I'll be able to squeeze this one in as well, because these two books are the middle grade monthly picks by J.D. Ray Reads and How to Train Your Gavin channels. So I'm hoping that I will at least read the first book. I might read the second book as well if I have time in March, but I'm not prioritising this one. But yeah, this series is about three sisters who are trapped on an island, I believe, and they're cursed to never leave the island. I don't know. I'll be able to tell you more about it at the end of March. But this one has got orange sprayed edges, and you know me, if it's got sprayed edges, it's gonna come home with me. So there is that one. The next book I actually bought because I know the Waterstones staff in my local town quite well now. They know me by name. As soon as I walk in, they're like, "Hi, Nikki," and I'm like, "Hi." And this one was actually recommended to me by one of the members of staff, and that is Orion Lost by Alistair Chisholm. So the member of staff was telling me that sci-fi is not normally a genre that you find in middle grades. This is a middle grade, and that he'd read it and he thought it was absolutely amazing, and he really recommends that I should pick it up. So I did. I was in the mood for buying a book that day anyway, so yeah, I picked this one up. I believe that this is about a transport ship called Orion, which is 4 months out of Earth when catastrophe strikes, leaving the ship and everyone on board stranded in deep space. And it's up to 13-year-old Beth and her friends to navigate through treacherous and uncharted territory to reach safety. Anyway, so it's going to have diversity in here, which is going to be really interesting to read, I'm hoping. So yeah, a little bit of sci-fi in the middle grade. Don't get it very often, and I'm quite intrigued to read it. So that is that one. Now the next book I bought, because I actually found it in my local library, and I do have the library book, but I will be taking that back very soon. But I actually bought a copy of it for myself. It's The Lost Magician by Piers Torday, and if you watched my February TBR video, you will know that I was reading The Frozen Sea by Piers Torday throughout February, and I did read it, and I loved it. I don't know if my February wrap-up is going to go up before or after this video, but spoilers, I loved The Frozen Sea. Like, it is my favourite book I've read so far this year. So when I saw another book by Piers Torday in my local library, I snapped it up, brought it home without even reading the synopsis. And when I started reading the synopsis, I realised that this was a book that happens, the story in this happens before The Frozen Sea. So they're both set in the land of Folio, and this tells a story of 4 children who find their way into Folio and have many adventures. And then The Frozen Sea, those 4 children are now adults in that story. So once I realised that, I ordered this on Amazon straight away because I love the frozen sea so much. I just wanted more of it. So this one is absolutely stunning. Look at those end papers with the little boy in the tree. And then when you look at the front cover, look at that. There's a tree man right there. The word The Lost Magician is kind of over his face, but there is a man tree. He is so freaky and scary and wonderful and amazing all at the same time. So yeah, kind of had to buy this one because they don't let me keep library books, so bought this one. The next two books I managed to pick up at a discount bookstore that I have in my local town, and they are book 1 and book 2 of the Magic Misfits by Neil Patrick Harris, who is a well-known actor and comedy person. He's a comedy actor. So we have the Magic Misfits, and I guess this is about a boy who gets involved with magical people and magicians and stuff, but you know me and book covers, look at that. You got a rabbit and cards and stuff. Just stunning book cover. So yeah, and these were really cheap. They were only £3.99. So I was extremely excited to find these. And then the second book, which is happily called The Second Story. The bear cover has a monkey with tarot cards there. So beautiful books, and they're going to be like magical and exciting, adventurous middle grade stories. And I'm guessing she's an escape artist because woo-wee. So yeah, these are gonna be really interesting, and I know that How to Train Your Gavins Believe-a-thon is going to be happening again soon this year, so I'm trying to stock up on some of my middle grade so I have plenty of choices for his readathon. So yeah, there's that. Okay, moving on to some more books because there's more. The next book I bought, it was actually on a 2 for £5 deal. So I bought this one, although I've already read it, but I read it on an ebook, and it was such a beautiful story. You need your tissues handy when you read this story, and that is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. This made me blubber like a baby, seriously. So Patrick Ness actually wrote this story using ideas from someone else. Original idea by Siobhan Dowd. So there. And the reason why he used her idea is because she had the idea for the book and she was going to write it, but sadly she passed away, so her family allowed Patrick Ness to write the story and publish it. It is a beautiful story, sad but beautiful, and it's about a young boy whose mother is dying. I think it's from cancer, and he's trying to deal with his emotions and his feelings about his mother dying. And during the night, this monster comes to his window. He looks like a big tree. This one doesn't have any pictures in, but you can get an illustrated version, and it shows the monster as kind of like a huge tree figure. And the monster comes every night, and he makes a deal with the boy to say he will tell the boy stories on the promise that one night Connor, the young boy, will tell the monster a story. And the stories are all wonderful, But when it comes to Connor's story, that's when it gets to you. That's when it really pulls here. So if death and loss of a loved one is a trigger for you, you might want to avoid it, but I would say don't. I would say just go into this knowing that it's going to happen and just brace yourself for it, because this is too beautiful a story to not read. It was just, that's why I wanted a copy of it, because I know that I'm gonna, as much as it saddens me and it's such a heartfelt story, it is one that I am gonna want to read and reread and just dive into every now and again, because it's just such a beautiful story. And the book that I got with that on the 2 for 5 deal was The Colour Purple by Alice Walker. Now, I've seen the film of this, played by Whoopi Goldberg, I believe. So I know that this deals with domestic violence and abuse. So again, I think it's going to be one of those beautiful but heart-wrenching stories. Hard story to read, but it's a beautiful story. So yeah, I've been wanting to read this for quite some time, but I know it's going to be a difficult one to read. But yeah, I got that one. The next book I've also read, but I wanted a physical copy of, because I'm wanting to build my library of this author's work, because I love his work, and that is Brandon Sanderson's Skyward. Now, I read this last year. I got the library book out and read the library book and loved it. Absolutely loved it. I'm not a sci-fi fan. Sci-fi is not my favourite genre at all. I don't do space. It's just not something that interests me. But this one got me. This one got me intrigued. I'm hoping to read Starsight soon. Yeah, I wanted to have my own copy of this because I'm wanting to collect all of Brandon Sanderson's work so that I can have a whole shelf of Brandon Sanderson's books. The next book I've been umming and ahhing about buying, thinking, am I interested in this topic or not? It is I don't know if you would class it as a contemporary, but I don't think there's any magical, fantastical element to it. So I think it's going to be like just a contemporary sort of story, and that is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I recently listened to the audiobook of The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I kind of enjoyed it. It was okay. I wouldn't scream and shout about it, but it was a good story. Little predictable in the end, but I enjoyed it. It wasn't a waste of my time for sure. And this story is about a rock band or something called Daisy Jones and the Six back in the 1970s, and then one day they just split up and nobody knew why. And this is the story of why. This is the story of why they split up. Now, I believe it is told in kind of a script sense. So yeah, as I'm flicking through, it's all written in as like a script. So a lot of people have advised that you listen to the audiobook as you read through, just because it might be easier to listen to. But I'm used to reading scripts anyway. If I can get it on audiobook as well, I will try and consume it that way. But I'm used to reading scripts. I did performing arts at college, so it doesn't bother me reading a script. And this one has got sprayed edges. That's what made me buy it in the end. I have been umming and ahhing about this book for a long time, whether wanting to get it or not. But when I saw the sprayed edges, that was it. It was like, okay, I'll buy you now. Told you, pretty sprayed edges make me buy you anyway. And the next book I got is the final book in a trilogy, and it's very well titled Finale. Just in case you were worried as to whether this was the last book in the trilogy, the title says it all, really. So this is written by Stephanie Garber, and as I say, it's the third book in a trilogy. I believe it's something about a kind of a carnival thing comes to town, and there's a game involved, but the game isn't what you think it is, and the story goes over 3 books. I have no idea. I know it's a well-loved series on BookTube, so yeah, I thought I have the first 2 books, so I thought I might as well get the 3rd book, so finish the trilogy off. So that's why I got that one. The next book I picked up because it was on a 3 for £5, so we're getting some good deals in here. I didn't pay full price for all of these. And the first book in the 3 for £5 was Scatterheart by Lily Wilkinson, and that's the cover there. And this is set back in the early 1800s. Yeah, 1814, and the young girl called Hannah, rich, spoilt, has everything, suddenly loses everything and is sentenced to transportation. So life on the convict ship is hard and brutal. She loses her innocence but comes to understand herself. An extraordinary adventure with an unforgettable heroine. So something happens for her to be sent and on the transportation ships. I'm assuming across to the Americas, and this is her story basically. So it looks intriguing, and I love that historical kind of story that this is hopefully going to be on about. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. The next one, you're going to know immediately why I bought this one. This one is called Lorelei by Laura Dockrill, and it says, an extraordinary mermaid in an ordinary town. Need I say more? It's got mermaids in it. The next book. I didn't need to buy this book because I already own a copy of this book, but I own the mass market paperback edition, and then I saw this. So this is Assassin's Apprentice, the illustrated edition by Robin Hobb, and look how gorgeous that is. I mean, this is absolutely stunning. And the recommended retail price for this, according to the back, is £30. I did not pay £30. I paid £3.99. £3.99. I was not going to leave this in the shop. No way. So yeah, I know I shouldn't have bought it because I already own a copy, but there are some beautiful illustrations in here. Let me find you one. There's that one there, and there's that one there. So there are 11 illustrated pictures in here, and I am going to be reading Assassin's Apprentice during March for the Elderling Along, hosted by Becca in the Books and other hosts. So yes, I cannot wait to read this. I am going to read this edition as well, so that I can see those beautiful pictures while I'm reading it as well. So excited to own this, even though I shouldn't have bought it because I already own a copy. But couldn't leave this on the shelf, not for £3.99. No way. And the next 2 books I bought because I absolutely love the mangas for this theme, this series, and they are 2 Death Note books. So the first one is Another Note, the Los Angeles BB Murder Cases. So that is this one, and these are written by Tsugumi Oba and Takeshi Obata. So I'm not 100% sure if these are the novelizations of the mangas, or whether it's a completely different case of the Death Note, but I'm intrigued as to what it is, so I wanted to read it. And then the other one is L Changed the World, written by M. So it's like that. And again, I'm not 100% sure. Can you see that? I'm not 100% sure what these are. But it's Death Note, and I love Death Note, so I bought it. They were part of my Valentine's Day presents, so yeah, I know I've bought a lot of books, but at least 6 of those were Valentine's Day presents, so I didn't buy all of them. My husband bought some of them. No excuse really. And the last one, because there is one final book that I want to show you, and I've already started reading it. And it is The Love Hypothesis by Laura Stephen. Now, if you know me and you've been watching me for a while, you will know that my favourite book of 2019 was The Exact Opposite of OK, written by Laura Stephen. I love her work. She's funny, she's witty, she's sarcastic, she's just really down to earth, and I met her at a meet and greet in my local library and she was amazing, and so I want to support her as much as possible. She is a local author to my area, so again I want to support her as much as I possibly can. I had this on pre-order. I had to have it, and I've only read the first chapter, but my God, it was so wonderful to be back reading her writing. So this is a hilarious LGBT plus love story with a twist from the award-winning Laura Stephen. So this is about a young girl who is an A student. She is a whiz at school. She loves physics, but the only thing she can't seem to get a grasp on is love. And so yeah, she discovers a scientific breakthrough that promises to make you irresistible to everyone around you, and she wonders if this could be the key. So it's going to be a hilarious journey in a teenager's quest for love. So I cannot wait to carry on with this, because as I say, I've already started it. I just couldn't wait. This is going to be one of the first books I read in March, even though I didn't put it on my March TBR. I don't care. I'm going to read it anyway. Let's be a rebel. So yeah, by the time you probably see this video, I will have finished this. It'll be fine. So yeah, the secret to love is great chemistry. I can't. I just love the graphics as well on the front cover. So beautiful. So that is it. That is my book haul for February. There won't be one in March or April, I promise, because I'm on a book buying ban because I have too many. I need to find places on my shelves for all of these books now, and there's not much room left. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, comment and subscribe. I make videos every Monday for Makeup Mondays and every Friday for Bookish Fridays. And if you are interested in either of those 2 topics, please do come and join us. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!